Hello, fellow map makers. Welcome to the first live map making session of the year. I hope you can hear me. The sound is good. If not, please let me know in the chat. I haven't touched this in a while with the break over Christmas, so stuff may be a little bit off. If you're new here, I'm Ralph Shaman of Pro Fantasy Software, and I'm going to do a little demonstration of Campaign Cartographer and a new mapping style tonight. I hope you all had a lovely start into the new year and are as eager as I am to get some more mapping done and create some beautiful maps for your games, for your books, for your collections, for whatever. As always, if you've got any questions, post them in the chat. We have some very helpful, nice and talented people there who will answer what they can. And I can also, if possible, show anything on screen that you may have questions for. All right. Good. The first maps are coming in. We'll see what we can do there. Forgive me if I am a little bit coughing at times. I'm still got a little bit of a cold stuck in my throat, but not much, but might crop up occasionally. What are we looking at tonight is the first issue of the Cartographer's Annual 2023, and it's a revisit to an old and favorite style of mine, the 13th Age Overland style. You can see in the example map from the annual here, and it's a style developed by Lee Moyer for the 13th Age role-playing game by Pelgrane Press. Here, it's a bit much to say that it's a whole style. It's one map, a big campaign map he did for the book, and he allowed us to take his files and create a mapping style from that we can give to you and let you do your own maps with. It's been the original 13th Age style was done more than 10 years ago, and we took the opportunity this year to revisit it, expand it with more symbols and more bitmap fills and more tools, and also overhaul the whole sheet effect settings and stuff, because since it was originally released, Campaign Cartographer has a lot of stuff added to it, and a lot of new sheet effects, new setups, and it was time to take advantage of those for this beautiful style. Okay, so then let's see how we can get going. I'll try to do this slowly. If I'm going too fast, give a quick shout out. If you want me to clarify anything, don't hesitate to ask. This is an overland style, and as such can also be used as an introduction to Campaign Cartographer, so I'm trying to take it slowly. To start a new map, I always go through the new map wizard. The button for that is up here. New map, click that. You can save your old settings or not, as you prefer. And then you've got the map type pop up in the drawing wizard, and we're going with the overland maps for today. All the other stuff crops up depending what add-ons you've got installed. So cities, dungeons, and overland maps will already be in the base program, but if you have Cosmographer added for Starship deck plans and stuff, you will get these new categories in here where you find the templates for those types of maps. Click Next, and then we do have a lot of different styles here available. These are all annual styles from the various years. Down here are the styles for the base program, and our latest ones we've dropped. Sorry, that is my bit cough stuck in the throat. Got the annual, we dropped the annual from the titles because it was just becoming unwieldy to have everything under annual here in the list, and so we find 13H revisited straight under 13H revisited with the year of the annual stuck at the end there. So you can see this is the first 2023 style. And then I click next, and here I can set up the size of my map in miles for this one, or kilometers if you choose the metric version of the template. You can also click one of the buttons here to add a scale bar to the map. Let's try this. Let's add the scale bar to the bottom right, and I'll click next here, and here you can already set up stuff like the background. If you want to change the background of your map, choose a land background or a different sea texture, but I'll leave that as is here. And you can also add a grid overlay at this point, square grid, hex grids, but I'll do that later. So I'll just click finish at this point and save my map. Let's go for a video folder, my 13th map. Here we are. Oh, I did I actually check the grid? Might have, but I don't want the square grid here at this point, and I'll just delete this by selecting it and pressing D for do it. Oh, yeah, fresh off the screen. But you can see I do have. Yeah, thanks everyone. I forgot to uncheck the grid again, and because I didn't change anything, it used the default square grid there. Got the scale bar. Then here you can see it puts in for a default scale bar you put in. It will be always 100 mile scale bar. I can put in a larger one later if I want to, and I might show you that later. For now, I'll just leave it here in the bottom right. So we've got the map border or blue background, and one of the first, usually first is put down a landmass. Right. Now let me check. The Quentin had the question about size there earlier. Okay, not quite sure. If you scale this up to basically the overland maps are pretty much independent of the actual scale size or the size of the map you choose. Whether you do 40,000 by 20,000 map or 2,000 by 1,000 map, the bitmaps and fill styles will scale to that, as will the symbol scale. So that you basically have a manageable scaling at every size you choose. And if you want to change that and want to change the hills, the easiest is usually to either resize the drawing area after you've created the map, and then because that will keep all the fill styles at the one default size. But as you have a larger drawing area, it will look smaller in comparison. And this works all the same in the different overland styles, yes. So I was going to draw a landmass. For this I'm going up here in the toolbars. I can also go to the sea or the... Did I put this in here? No, I can't remember whether I put the landmass tools in the catalog. No, I didn't. There's only the sea tools, so I'm gonna use the landmass tool up here. Click that, and then I'm gonna start drawing my coastline. As you can see, the landmass tool for the 13th H overland style is pretty heavily fractalized, so each section you put down will have a number of nodes and a broken up coastline. You can randomize that as you go along. each time you hit the space bar, it will regenerate that bit of the coastline until if you've got something that you like. And you can just put every point down. So I want to create some large base here. This broken coastline, and then I'll just connect this to the map border by clicking beyond that. You can see the coastline does not extend beyond the border here. Just click beyond it and it will attach the coastline to the border. Same in this corner, and then I'm just going to right click to finish that, and there's my coastal outline. If you've got something that you don't like, perhaps if I don't want the bay in here to be that large, I can always, with the landmass tool selected, press E for edit. You can see that down here in the command line. That will edit the existing coastline. Click the point where you want to start your edit. Do your edit. Then right click and then choose the point you want to connect back. And there we are. There's our change to the coastline. And then I'm going to use the same tool to add a few islands along the coastline. I always like to extend a few islands beyond the map border here, so I get the feeling that the landscape doesn't end at the map border, and instead there's lands beyond to explore. And you can go as detailed and as you want with the islands. Almost all coastlines will have quite a few small islands ahead of them, but for today this shall be fine. And then I want to create a bit of coast outline with a slightly lighter bitmap fill here, and for that I'm going to grab the contour light sea fill, and then I'm just going to outline my landmass. Because I've chosen a dark background for the sea, I need to outline the coastline this way. If I had chosen a lighter one, I could draw the darker areas basically from the other side. But this is quite quick and easy as well. Just going around the areas here. And then attaching it to the map border again, just like the landmass. So there you can see the slightly lighter coastline. And there you can see how it looks when it's blended into the dark background. Quite like that. That's looking good. A good start for the sea. Now let's turn to the land again. Okay, so next up I usually do the mountain ranges, and for that I load up the Minerals and Mountains catalog here on the catalog toolbar. Click that, and then we do have individual symbols for mountains, but the bulk of hilly and mountainous areas will be done with fill styles in this map, and therefore the mountain tools are already also included here in the catalog selection. Basically it's the same. As you see, we do have a terrain hills B1 here, And that's the same if I go here into the selection of drawing tools as the Hillsby one here. It's just different ways to link to the same drawing tool. So let's see, I do have the mountains here, so I'm gonna grab one of the mountain fills, one of the more hillier ones, and I want to have a large mountain range here on the left side of the map, closing off my lands basically, with a spur going down this way. And again, I'm attaching this to the map border, and there's my mountain range. As you can see, due to the texture, there's a little bit of repetition. You can see that the mountains appear again, but we'll break this up with further tools in a moment, because we do have new tool here for drawing lines of mountains, basically mountain ranges. Let's zoom in here a little bit, where you can draw a line and it fills that line with mountain symbols. And I'm gonna start with the highest range here with a snow-capped mountains range. And for this, I'm just drawing a smooth line here. And then I've got a range of peaks. And I'm going to do the same down here a little bit. And arrange this way. Go. I might also still do a mountain range further down this way. Good. And then we can go in and add some individual mountains to break this up a little further. We have got some great peaks here. Might even make these a little bit. Oh, okay, I'm at a very small scale. Something I did. I already thought that my mountain ranges here felt a little bit small. No, I think it's probably because the tool scaled them a little bit. Perhaps I started with the range. Let's try that. I want to see whether if I start with the other skill over the other level of symbols, whether that looks larger. As Quentin says, they appear a little bit small. I thought the same. So let's give it a new try. Set this to size 1. Still a little bit small if I select them again. Yeah, I think this is because the tool is set up to taper the mountains, to make them smaller towards the end. And the full size is in the middle, and therefore you get the smaller scale afterwards. And we have to do our scaling a little bit larger. Let's have a look what we can do. We can set our default symbol scale to something a bit larger, or we can check our tool. No, that's not what I wanted. I want to symbols along tool. Here, this is the tool I'm using. And I can see this starting scale is the 60%. That's the scale we saw there, and the center is 100%. So we could do this a bit different. Start at 100%, go to 120, then 140, 120, 100% at the end. Let's save this setting. See whether this works better. I think I've not successfully overwritten the setting there. See? Now we're back at that scale. Okay, so what we do, we'll leave the scale at this size here for now. And what I'm going to do instead, symbols overlap on purpose. What we're going to do, we're going to put in larger symbols by hand. So you have the great peaks here. Yeah. And then I'm going to use my ranges again to connect these. Go. And then I'm going to use the normal mountains at the larger scale. So it's too normal to fill this up with more symbols. And this way we break up the texture of the repeating pattern of the texture beneath, and give the whole thing more of an impression of a larger range. And then I'm going to grab the not snow-covered mountains and place some of these in the more outlying areas. There. If you want to change the fill is actually set up to match the size of the mountains fairly closely. If you look at the shadows and the ridges and stuff at scale 1, that is actually fairly close to each other. But if you want to make the fill style smaller and larger, you can always do that via the fill style catalog here with the mountains fill. Yeah, so all the different mountain fills. You can change the scale here if you want that, make that smaller or larger. Alright, so I've got the main mountain range down, and now I want to create a little bit more terrain, hilly terrain around that. For that I'm also going to use texture. This. Let's see, it goes behind the mountain range texture, and so just gets a little bit flatter looking area around this here. Let's do a little bit more of that up here. We go, and we can of course also use this to draw hilly areas away from the mountains. If you want to make a hilly coastal area, you can also attach this texture to the coastline. For that, hit T for trace in the middle of the command. Click on the edge here and draw the hills there, and then it goes up all the way to the coastline. have that here. Trace. Again, click on the edge. Follow it until to the point where you want to trace, and then right click to finish the trace, and here end the polygon with a right click. And then you can also go in and grab the hill symbols, and I can find them, here they are, and then add these a little bit of outlying areas to add a little bit more variability to the edge here. And that way you can build your relief, shaded relief areas from both the textures and the symbols. I'm gonna grab the other tool here and add a little bit more hilly area in here, because it's also fill style based. It can be it's useful to vary this or put many polygons in there with different fill styles, and also break up any patterns and give the whole thing a varied and hopefully a realistic look. Oh, there we are. I've got some more hills. All right, let's keep it at this for the moment. And yeah, I could perhaps Quentin suggests to scale the symbols, the snow-capped mountain symbols a bit higher. That might quite okay. Let's give this a try. We've got these snow-capped mountains here. There we are. Let's scale them by 1.25. Yeah, that's not too bad. And you can play around with that as you like. So that's just basically what I'm doing here from the symbol manager. I'm scaling the individual symbols up, so they will all be changed in the map. I'm scaling the definition of the symbol, and this will scale every instance of the symbol in the map. Good, so next up I want to draw some rivers, and for this I'm gonna grab the river tool. I can right click to show different sizes. We've got two ways to draw rivers here basically in this map, either via the cutout map method. Let's show you how this works with the lakes. You get this bright magenta shape. And the sheet effects, if I apply them now, then they will cut out that section of the map as if there was sea behind this, and you get basically inland sea. You can use this very nicely as a tool for inland seas or large lakes. But you can also do the same with the river. For that you just draw here the river across that, and you get this rather harshly cut in version of the river. And I might like this for larger rivers, so I could perhaps even, if I make this a little bit larger, to make this larger I'm going to use change properties. Click on this river here, do it, and give it a line width of say 3. There we are. It looks quite nice for large rivers, but personally I prefer the smaller version, or the version that's not so deeply cut into the landscape. And for this, this draws as a normal blue line with a little bit of sheet effects attached. I also gives us a little bit of a cut-in or cut-out look. But for those, you sometimes have to be a bit careful where you place them. So we go. The transition to the sea might not always be quite as neat as it is with the cutout version, but I think it looks a little bit better overall. But this is mostly a matter of taste, and therefore I've included both versions in this version of the style. Smaller rivers to draw tributaries. And you can very nicely just draw across the textures here in this style, and the rivers go on top of that, so they do look like they flow through that type of terrain. Again, let's grab a larger river here, start on the coastline, and then I'm going to show you how to taper a large river that you've drawn in one draw into smaller sections. So let's say you've got this here, and you feel that it's a little bit wide here at the headwaters. So what I'm going to do is first I'm going to use the extract properties on to see how wide it is. It is 2 units wide, and I want to taper it a bit, so I'm going to split it with the split command. I'm going to do 1 split here and 1 split here, and then I'm going to use change properties on this section, D for do it, and make that 1.5 units wide, and the other one on the top section, and make that 1 unit wide. And now I've got a nicely tapering river line there. And again, can use the small version of the river tool to add some branches. No need at this scale to taper them further down, but if you want to be very detailed, you can of course go in and break up the river into even smaller section. And to give it even more of a tapering look. What I also wanted to do is draw a little bit of a delta here. I'm just going to use that with the default river size. Add some branches, and there we go. Yes, as Quentin mentions in the chat, exactly the other downside of the cutout version is that the terrain will go on top of it, so mountains, so you can't use it over other terrain except for the basic land terrain. Okay, need a few more rivers. Again, if you want placing the river mouse, it's good to zoom in and have a closer look where you're putting your ends, because if you use the on modifier like you've been doing on there from the high zoom out, you hit several nodes at once when you're picking the end node of your river, and you're never quite sure which one it is until if you zoomed in. So double check your rivers here. There we are. Alright, I could spend a lot of time going into the details of the rivers here, but I don't have the time for that tonight, so let's just... I normally would add a few more tributaries and rivers on this map, but let's keep it at this for the moment. Alright, so next up is more terrain. And for that, I'm going to use load up the natural features catalog. This doesn't actually have any symbols in it. It's all drawing tools, but it's a convenient overview here with the different ones we have available. And I wanted to add a desert here at this area. And Travis, why don't I have... Okay, did I somehow drop the desert? Oh no, up there, of course, the very first one. I just didn't see it. There we are. And I can... Oh, hi, the cat is there. Hi, Asa. You're standing in front of my screen. That's a bit awkward. Come on, down here. Say hi. And then I'm just gonna draw the desert here. It's below the other terrain. To refresh, and you can see that it's set below the hilly terrain, so you can overlap these nicely. Notification. Yeah. And you can also go in and add a few. Let's have a look whether we can add some nice hilly... I know I don't have the varicolor mountains in here. We don't have varicolor with the symbols, but we can just grab some hills and place these. The brown of the hills here just matches nicely with the color of the desert area as well. You can always use the tab key to cycle through various symbols of the collection. There we are. And that way we break this up a little bit further. Might even do a big mountain here somewhere in the middle of the desert. It's not snow covered. And make this a special feature in the map. What we can do is we can make every mountain into a volcano by just grabbing the volcano symbol in here and placing that on top of the other symbol. And there we've got a big mountain, volcanic mountain there in the middle. Yeah, as Vivian just suggests, volcanoes are just the cherry on top. What you can also do, if you take a look here, we've got some of these ringed mountain peaks. These are nice candidates for putting a volcano icon on top to build some more volcanoes here in the mountains. But you can also just place them anywhere on the map, basically. Go. So that's my desert. Let's go back to our other terrain. Oops, on mountains terrain. And I wanted to add a little bit of swampy area around my delta here. Again, I'm using the trace function, T, select the coastline, start point, to draw a little bit of swamp terrain around my river mouth. And also down here around this lake. And here again, then we have this problem. Let's just show you. If I want to do the same as there with the river, I think I'm gonna just draw this on top over this, but that doesn't work because that's the cutout river version. And this will be below that. So what we need to do instead is we need to use the trace function again. Can go across this river here, and then go T for trace, and I'm going to trace the lake all the way up here, and this way I will get the swamp terrain around the lake. Oh, we've got some red wastelands. Perhaps we can, I think, problem. No, let's check whether this actually works on top of the desert. For that, the wasteland sheet needs to be on top of the desert. It is, that works fine. Then we do have some grasslands here. We can just put these down This style is set up with quite a number of different terrain sheets, so you can overlap them easily without bothering too much. If something doesn't show up, you can always check where the text went and either create a new sheet for it or move the sheet order around. If you want something appear on top of something else, you can move it further down in the list and it will be drawn later. We go a bit more farmland area here. Let's have a look whether this works with the swamp. Yep, the swamp is on top of the farmland. That's nice. That's how I wanted it. And I have some marshy area here, which I also wanted to use. So I'm going to put in here. There we go. Looking good for what I'm doing here. I would certainly normally put in a little bit more work, more detail in this, but I do need to get on, and I want to add some forests. We've got two different types of forest tools in here. We've got the normal, let's zoom up. No, okay, perhaps it's only in the, yes, easier overview. We've got the deciduous forest tools. We've got the jungle version and the pine woods version of the forest, and both of them in a complete texture without any breaks in it, and then the woods version of the tool with some breaks in it to give it a little bit dense appearance. And I'm going to start out by grabbing the woods version and then outline the area I want my forest to be. Let's go here, just follow the edge of the hills a little bit. There we are. Then go here again, we can trace the bit of a coastline. There we are. And now if I want a section of that denser, then I can go in and choose the forest version of the tool and just draw this on top of that, and that will cover up any of the empty spaces and give a more dense appearance in the center. This way I can draw more forest. You can of course also go the other way around, start out with a dense version of the forest and then use the woods version to add a little bit to that where the forest is not quite as dense. There we go. And use this to build up a bit more vegetation on your map. Let's trace the coastline a bit again. Here we are. Then for some of the more mountainous areas, I'm going to grab the pine version of the fill and just draw this across some of the hill sections. Again, this time the dense part first, and then grab the woods version and add a little bit to that. Certainly worth it to put in here some more detail and do little patches of the forest in places. But you can see where this is going, and I just finally want to add some jungle down here along the coast. Again, I'm going to trace my coastline. There we are. And again, I can trace this. There we are. It always helps if you don't have just one big blob of a texture, and can just add some individual pieces outside. There we go. And there's our jungle area. And then we're gonna switch to the civilization stuff, add some cities and so on to the map. For that, I'm gonna load up the structures catalog, and we do have some symbols here. So I want to create a kingdom up here in this area. Perhaps the focus of my role-playing campaign or whatever I'm doing with the map. And gonna start off with the capital. We do have a few different options for these symbols available, whether you want varied color in the center or the outside. So I'm just gonna I'm using the standard ones in here, and here's where I want my capital to be. Yeah. We are now working on the symbol sheets, on the structure layers. All this has been set with the loading of the catalog and the selection of the symbol. So I've got one main, the capital down, then I do need some, larger cities for my kingdom. One here in the northeast, one down here at this river, one sitting here on the coast, fourth one here at the river junction, and the last one here up at the edge of the mountains. Now I'm going to go and next I'm going to add some roads between these, because these major cities will be the main focus of the kingdom, so they will most certainly be connected by roads. I'm going to use the road default tool down here and start out from the city. Follow the coastline here all the way to my capital. And then continue on here through the woods and the hills, crossing the river up here above the swamps, all the way to the most eastern city. Then a road going up here to the northern city. One down here. And we do need a connection to this city here, so let's assume it goes from here all the way down. And one across along the foothills of the mountains, all the way connecting to this road. So this will be the major road network of my kingdom, and we'll probably, let's say, we do need some connections outside, and so from this city we're gonna go down south. And one heading down through the desert further south. and also connection further north here. We might even have something heading into the mountains and crossing the mountains at some pass here from the city. Using the fill and the symbols here as a guide where pass might be. There we are. And now I go back to the settlements and use the roads as the guide for where towns might be. They'll probably spring up on road junctions or in places where rivers are crossed, or just in places where there's a convenient access to the sea, or along the stretch between two major points where a natural stop could be. Here, one here, and the mountains. Actually, here I'm going to put a little bit of one off to the side, and then reconnect this to our road. Yeah. That looks nice. I'm also thinking it would be natural to also have a road connecting these two towns here. So I'm adding this now. I could make these minor road. Let's see that I can use the change like draw tool setting. So I want to make this a minor road here, and perhaps also this little stretch. So I'm going to right click the change properties, use change like draw tool, right click to get the selection of all the different drawing tools, and then road minor, select this one and this one. I do have through press D for do it. Okay, I had the terrain texture here selected, so I'm going to undo that. Do the same tool again. Select by prior. No, it doesn't work with interrupted the command, and then just zoom in and make sure I only get one. So I have two objects picked, as I can see here in the command line. Press D for do it, and now the road is a little bit less wide than the other one. And that looks nice, and I could also go in here now and add some more stuff like castles and special sites, something I can decide on what it could be, ruins and so on. So at least I want to put in a ruin here somewhere in the mountains, also something here on the edge of the lake, the swamp, a castle here defending this gap in the mountain range and access to the kingdom. And what I also like in this style is adding some sea routes. So I'm gonna pick this tool and show a little bit of standard sea routes that ships might take. There we are. Doing this here. And there's a sea road going off to the south here. Okay, you can see they have a pattern here in the line, and this can always be a bit broken up. It's not very it's not always perfect. The dots here, if I don't mind this basically, doesn't have to be that absolutely regular. If you don't like these, you can always move these a little bit around the nodes where the long stretches are, and then you will find a place where these fix themselves. And let's have a look here. That looks good. There's my sea routes on the map. Alright, so last point would be to go in and label the our settlements and other areas, and for that I'm going to choose a color. I want my main labels to be white, and choose a layer for that, text labels. And we do have several text layers here. The main text sheets. The main text sheet is set up to make bright text readable and stand out on the map. You've got an alternative one for darker text labels, and then some specific ones for certain terrain features. So I'm just going to start out here. It's not feeling very creative with names here right at the moment, so I'm just going to put in Kingstown, and then I'm going to scale it to my standard size I want for my city labels, or perhaps just my capital label. Let's have a look. See, the sheet effect gives it a dark outline that should make the white text readable on most backgrounds. And I'm just going to use extract properties to see what my size here is. Use that as default, so I've got a 24 size for my capital, so make the other cities a little bit smaller with 20. And you can always align the text with B for bottom, T for top, and so on, left and right. So it fits in the space you want it to go. If you want to do multi-line text, you can check the multi-line here. Left, put it here. North Point for this city. Top left. That interferes a little bit too much with the town symbol. I want it to be on the other side, so I'm going to align it right. Put it here. And that way you can put your text labels on the map. Finally, if you want to put in for the mountain ranges, for example, I'm going to put down a little bit of curve text. For that, I'm going to use the smooth path to draw an outline first. There we go. Then I'm going to set it to text mountains and use draw text along a curve. Now it's easier, so I don't need any other symbols below when I'm selecting to freeze everything else but the text labels layer I'm working on. Select the smooth path I've drawn and put in the text here, dragons spurs. Yeah, and there's my curved text here on the mountains. It's perhaps not quite as visible here. Could make it a little bit larger. Or could change the color as well. Let's say change color. See prior. Do it. And put in brighter color. For example, as you prefer the mountains. If you want switch this around. It's set up for bright text on the mountains. Let's say I wanted to make it dark. Change color, prior to it, and make it a dark brown. Then the dark outline might not be so nice, so then I'm gonna go in, sheet effects, select the, and here do a light brown gray instead, and that looks pretty good. There's my dragon spurs, mountains. And then if you've not added your compass roses and scale bars and stuff at this point, you can always go in and load the all catalog settings, click the cartouche symbol, and you've got your symbols for that in here. So if you place it at default size, it will be the 100 miles again, but we could make it larger, say 1.5. Then we can just put in the new size 150. And then we do have the scale bar with the 150 miles setting. Choose the compass rose, put that on top there. And that's the map done. Well, I would normally put some more work in this to this, but we've, our hour is done, and think it's quite okay on what we came up with within the hour. And I've shown you the range of different things. Most of the things you have in the style available. There's a little bit more. You've got the this is roleplay specific for the role-playing game. The icon symbols for the 13th Age role-playing game, but of course you can also use them for other things like just some special mountains, and we've used all the other catalog settings basically. And there we are. Hope you like that. And let's see how we continue next week. Until then, have a good early 2023. Happy mapping and have a good time. Bye.